Welcome back. The Nigerian economy loses an estimate of $26 billion yearly due to electricity shortage. In a recent AfricaTrade Barometer report, Standard Bank identified electricity supply as a critical barrier to business operations, with businesses spending around $22 billion yearly on off-grid fuel to offset the impact of unreliable electricity. Now, this comes as Nigeria battles with persistent grid collapse, recording 108 collapses since the power sector's privatization. In the last 2 weeks, 17 of the 19 northern states in Nigeria have faced the blackout, leaving residents frustrated and desperate. The region, once a hub of commercial and industrial activities, now struggles to stay afloat amidst persistent power outage. Joining us this morning is lawyer and executive coordinator at NEPA Wahala NG, Emeka Ojoko. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I think we've seen power outage occurring in different parts of the country. It's disrupted production. It's compromised the quality of life. Everyone complains not just about the heat, but the fact that even those who run small and medium-scale businesses that are highly dependent on electricity have had to, suffer greatly as a result of it. But I want us to first of all address the concerns by the North and the bodies that have thought or have said that this is maybe an attempt to disrupt the region's growth.
Well, the reports coming out of regarding that outage is that it was caused by vandalism. That's a factor of force majeure. It's not within anybody's control. I would only urge the TCN and those involved to repair those destroyed equipment and get the power back up as quickly as possible, because it's not funny at all, right? Having to depend on backup power, generator power for this longer time. It's not funny at all.
All right.
I mean, but it's still really, really shocking. If we're talking about losing $26 billion to electricity or energy lack every year. This is greatly affecting businesses, but mostly also affecting the average Nigerian citizen. From your perspective, what continues to be the main struggle with the Nigerian electricity sector? We've had successive governments come in and out. They make the same promises, but we never go beyond 4,000 megawatts. We just seem to hang around the same level of electricity generation and transmission with successive administrations. So would you say it's a policy problem? Would you say it's a political will? Or would you just, say that we're just not ready to fix it?
It's a combination of the two factors that you talked about, right? The main problem that we have is the gap between installed generation capacity, actual generation capacity, and then what you're able to wheel out. As of today, we have about 13,000 megawatts of installed capacity, but we are only able to wheel out and utilize between 4,000 and 5,000 megawatts, right, when there are no disturbances in the grid. So the challenge here is that our transmission and distribution infrastructure is ancient. We're talking about the facilities that have been in place since the 1970s without any significant upgrade. So if we are to pump out 15,000 megawatts at one time, the entire thing will collapse, right? The network cannot sustain it. So government needs to upgrade the distribution and transmission infrastructure so that more power can be wheeled out, right? Now, if we're able to evacuate that much power from the generation companies, then they can now invest in significantly upgrading their own generation capacity so that more power can be generated. These things are put in place by the GenCos to make money. And remember, right, because of the fact that the GenCos, before they went into business to put this facility in place, they have pay or take arrangements with the government. Pay or take means that if the government does not take the capacity, government must pay for it. So, right, for the past several years, since 2005, 2013, when the sector was fully privatized, government has been paying for the difference between the 4,000 or 5,000 megawatts that we have and the 13,000 megawatt capacity of the GenCos. Government must pay for it. That's for the ones they're not able to export outside the country. So these are the dynamics of the sector. Now, for Nigerians, right, we've seen the increase in the tariff for part A customers, and people are screaming blue murder all over the country. But I can tell you, right, at 209, 208, whatever the cost is still far cheaper than alternative power supply if you have to go on generator. I had about 2-3 days of shortage outage in where I live, where there was a fault and the high tension cable didn't have power for like 3 days. And I know how much I spent over that 2 days. I spent over 100,000 naira on fuel for my house. So, and that's the amount that under Band A I would spend probably in 2 weeks. So if you look at it, right, the issues are myriad and they are hydra-headed. Okay, we're talking about, okay, the cost of power in Nigeria is too high for the Band A, right? And the discos and the industry players are telling us that even that cost is still too low. It's not up to the cost of producing this power. So government now has to fill that gap by way of subsidies that the federal government cannot afford. Now we're talking about divesting control of the power markets in certain states. Enugu State has shown the lead. They've taken over their own power market. But can that state afford to carry the subsidy between what the government, what the people actually take, and what the distribution company or generation company actually supplies? Can they continue on the pay or take regime? They cannot. They cannot without their own state finances running into trouble. So, as you said, it's a policy issue. The government, the federal government is, okay, we're trying to divest ourselves of these burdens of carrying these issues, so they let the states take over. But how many states have the power, have the capacity to shoulder this burden with the stretched resources that they currently have? These are the issues that this government has to contend with. And believe me, it needs a deft touch, right? And strategic thinking to be able to navigate the pathways in front of us as far as it comes to the energy sector in Nigeria. What
changes will need to be made drastically? And I'm asking in particular regarding the role of the minister, because when we talked about the ministers and the reshuffling of the cabinet, there are a number of Nigerians who expressed concerns that the minister still retained his office. Will there or should there have been maybe a reshuffling or a firing of the Minister of Power?
I share those views as well, right? That the sector needs somebody who is familiar with the sector. The minister is trained in accounting, right? He's trained in accounting. He doesn't have the professional qualifications to man this ministry, right? So, well, yes, he may be a good man manager, right? He surrounded himself with the right kind of experts to be able to advise him. And if he's a critical thinker, right, then he should be able to analyze those, whatever the diverse opinions that he'll be surrounded with, and take decisions. But it would help if you have somebody who knows what the experts know, right? And you can properly take the knowledge base, apply it with what you know about the sector, and be able to come out with decisions. Okay, so I share the view, honestly, along with other people who have said that we need to have somebody who is certified in electricity power systems management, someone who has in-depth knowledge of a sector to be able to run this thing effectively. And typically, those people, you need to get them from within the sector itself, right? People who have grown up within or people who have managed these systems outside the country. We have Nigerians in different who are working in different utilities outside the country who could have been brought in to man that sector, because, as I said, it needs industry expertise to run it properly.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, one thing I've always pointed out is sometimes, and I think Senator Ainaya Abaribe mentioned this sometime last week, that one of the reasons that ministers would fail is because the factors that should aid their success don't exist. Certain levels of infrastructure, you know, of policy, of funding, and you know, other different ideals that should aid the success of our ministry do not exist. And so can the current minister, Adelabu, have the same argument that it's not like he's not trying to work, but there are just many things that make it a struggle to fix Nigeria's power sector. The understanding that, you know, we have, or we sold off the distribution, you know, aspect of it, but the Nigerian government still has a large part of the generation and transmission part of the power sector. You know, if he says, "Oh, that is a major challenge," and you know, if we don't change all of these things, then we can't work. Does he have a good argument?
Well, Yes and no, right? Because we have to make the best of a bad job, right? The different contending factors, as I said, they are myriad. They will task even the best of minds.
Yeah.
But when you have somebody who does not have a knowledge-specific experience in that sector, it just makes things worse. Okay, so yes, we have all those things surrounding us, but it would be best for have somebody who has knowledge of the industry to be able to manage what is essentially a bad set of circumstances to give us the best outcomes. We're not making things easier for ourselves when we put career politicians in charge of sensitive aspects of our economy, like the power sector. That's my honest view.
All right. The Standard Bank has recommended a diversified energy mix to reduce the dependence on the national grid. What options are available, and how very maybe affordable would you say are these, and what policy interventions need to be made to ensure that we push or see more investment in renewable energy solutions?
Yes, I think the Rural Infrastructure Agency has started doing some things along that area. Okay, we are there, and I think the government also has launched something that I forgot the name of what they called it, to assist small-scale businesses and families to access credit in order to be able to put alternative power solutions in their homes and businesses. The cost is not affordable, right? I recently did something like that in my office. I know how much it cost me to get it done. Not many people will be able to afford those things on a one-off basis. So what the government needs to do more, right, is to make credit available to people to be able to put these solutions in their homes and then rely less on the grid. Now, with less reliance on the grid, now what it means now is that the discos can afford to now input the cost of power at the level it ought to be, and because people across the country rely less on it, then they can manage those costs. Now, this also has an effect, mind you, because the more people go off the grid, it means it's less revenue for the industry. So it needs to be carefully thought through, because whatever solutions that we create for the sector will create its own set of problems, right? It's a principle of change management that you must be able to think ahead and think, this solution that you're about to implement, what problems is it likely to create in the future? We don't want to have our utilities becoming bankrupt because of insufficient revenue coming into the system. Yeah. Okay, so while I agree, yes, off-grid can provide a solution, but let it not create a revenue bleed for utilities that have been running since 2013.
Yeah, I mean, I can just imagine the toll that this power situation takes on businesses across the country. Manufacturers, struggling, seriously to meet up with their targets. So there's that part, and also, if you remember, the president signed the electricity bill in 2023 into law. We expected at that time, or some states expected, that they will be able to get into full electricity production for themselves. Do you still think that is achievable to some extent? I know that Edo State has the Osisioma power projects, I think. Do you think other states will be able to pick up?
Yes, I know right now about 8 states which have set the process in motion. NEC has also passed necessary regulations to enable them to take charge of the electricity markets. But and Enugu State, yes, has done that for themselves. They've EEDC has set up a sub-utility to handle the market within Enugu State. But the principal challenge is, yes, what is the load capacity? What is the capacity of the market of Enugu State to effectively manage, what's the demand in Enugu State? As far as I'm concerned, right, from statistics available, the only states right now which have a viable electricity market will be Lagos State and Anambra State. Lagos State has the industries, they have the population to be able to take whatever the discos can throw at them. But Lagos State has not yet taken control of its electricity market. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? The government is thinking, can we do pay or take? if the demand is lower than the supply, the government must pay for that shortfall. They must pay the discos for it. So can we accommodate it in relation to the other problems that we have? Enugu State has gone ahead of us. We watch what happens. But Anambra is a deeply industrialized state. They are the ones, because any electricity market is founded not on residential consumer statistics, but it is founded, the backbone is the manufacturing, the heavy users. So where are the heavy users in Enugu State? Where are they? So that's the thing. Yes.
All right. I mean, we just can only hope for the best. It's not a good picture. The power outage continues. It seems to continue. I mean, the Lekki environs, we've gotten messages about the causes and how they might need another 15 days before it's resolved. But fingers crossed, we'll keep hoping for the best in Nigeria and with the power sector, but it's not a good look currently. Emeka Ojoko, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you once for having me. Always a pleasure being with you.